Welcome back to Mid-Maryland Votes. With early voting just days away, Washington County voters are preparing to make some important decisions about the future of local government. Tonight, we sit down once again with County Commissioner candidate Matt Breeding. After months of controversy and political distractions, Breeding says it's time to focus on what really matters: accountability, integrity, transparency, and bringing meaningful change to county government. Now let's get into it. Welcome to Mid-Maryland Votes. I'm your host, Mark Flynn. With me is my distinguished guest, Matt Breeding. Matt is currently the treasurer of Washington County and is seeking a position as the commissioner, correct?
That's correct, Mark.
Washington County. Now, Matt, the last time you were on the show, we were talking about controversies and leaked documents and all kinds of stuff, but let's put all that aside. Why exactly does Matt Breeding want to be a commissioner of Washington County?
Well, first of all, Mark, thank you for having me on again. I think this is our third podcast that I've done with you. But to get right to your question, I've sat as the treasurer for going on 4 years. It will be 4 years at the end of the year. And sitting there, I've watched Washington County government work, and I've seen a plethora of inefficiencies. And you and I have discussed this somewhat offline. But by nature, I'm a conservative. I watch every penny we spend in our house, and I watch it in Washington County. And since I'm the collector of the taxpayers' money, I feel that, I think and I know that our money is not always being spent in the best interest of the county. There's just so many things I've seen, like issuing an RFP, or request for proposal, to have the county put it out for competitive bid to who we bank with. And by law, we have to do that. We haven't done that for over a decade. Just simple little things that I think we can bring efficiency back to the government. The other thing, and it's no big secret, our county commissioners had a pretty rough time for the last 2 years by a couple community activists, or I think they call themselves First Amendment auditors. And it's been hard for them, and I understand that. I was the very first one he came after in 2023. And it was very uncomfortable, but I handled it differently. And my belief is, if you show an animal fear, that animal is going to attack you. And honestly, I think our commissioners handled this so wrong, and it brings embarrassment to the county. And I've given each of them advice how to handle this particular individual, and they've not listened, and it's only made it worse. So I think I have an understanding, and probably because of my experience in law enforcement, I understand conflict resolution and how to de-escalate a situation. I've been trained in it, and it's worked pretty well for me. So I think I've got the right background. I understand the county. I understand the county budget. I love Washington County. My office is the epitome of efficiency and camaraderie. And I think we need to spread that all throughout all the county departments.
So what's the county's biggest problem they're facing in Washington County? Washington County is obviously a rural county. Hagerstown's growing. You've got lots of industry and warehouses up there. But what's the single biggest problem facing Washington County right now that county government is either not addressing or isn't taking seriously enough?
Okay, I'm going to give you a very broad answer: public safety. But when I say public safety, of course, everybody talks about fire, EMS, and law enforcement.
The firemen, they always get mentioned first, don't they? Oh, son of a gun.
Yeah, that's a fact. But lumping into that, and water is a public safety issue. And this can has been kicked down the road forever. Hagerstown has a pretty active, the city of Hagerstown, pretty active water authority, and it's going very well for them. For instance, where I live, I do not live in the corporate limits of Hagerstown, but I buy water. My domestic water comes to the city of Hagerstown. I think we've got to look at, and I know one previous county commissioner who resigned early ran on the idea of creating a Washington County Water Authority. Of course, nothing happened, but my belief is, rather than create a separate water authority, I think we've got to partner with the city of Hagerstown to fix this problem, because as it is right now, the city determines where all the economic development goes. Since they control where the water goes, they control where the growth is. More often than not, in the corporate limits of Hagerstown where it becomes taxed. So that, or billed and, grows the city. But I think we've got to look at partnering a little bit because, as some have said to me, what's good for the city is good for the county, and what's good for the county is good for the city. And I think we've got to look at that collective approach right now. And the mayor of Hagerstown and I are very good friends. In fact, we've already communicated this morning, much earlier. The relationship between the city and the county is not good. Given my relationship with the mayor, I believe I can do a lot to bridge that gap. In fact, he's the one that asked me to run for that purpose.
What do you attribute the differences between the city and the county? Is it simply politics, or is it like, kind of the way people are looking at issues and matters, or what's going on between those two entities that they can't kind of seem to find that place to work together?
I think the priorities are the same, but there are some personality conflicts between the city and the county. Mm-hmm. It's an unfortunate situation, but I believe it can be fixed with the right people there that, like I said, understand conflict resolution and de-escalation and, hey, kind of like Trump, the art of the deal. Mm-hmm. How can we find a way to do things? And simple little things that the mayor and I have talked about, like, why does the city have its own permits and inspections department when the county does? It's a duplication of efforts. What if that, and when he was running to be the mayor, he's like, we need to look at that, just have one department. Or, Hagerstown is one of three, I think it's three, municipalities, major municipalities in the state that the county doesn't provide for their fire service. They are totally independent, different union, the whole thing. And it's like, could we bring this together as a cost-saving issue? That's just one. Territorial priorities seem to be the one. And you live in the town, the corporate limits to be on the council. So when you get your property tax bill, you get one bill for the state, county, and city or town all on one. It's very territorial here, where each of our 9 municipalities bill individually. Although my office, as the treasurer, prepares their bills for them and provides it to them every year, they pick up, their bills. Now it's done by PDF. They print them, stuff them in envelopes, and mail them out. So we have a duplication of collection efforts, where in Frederick County, you have 12 municipalities. They're all collected on one bill by the county treasurer, Miss Diane Fox, down there. And then once a month, they cut a check to the municipalities, and it saves everybody money. It eliminates so much confusion. I don't know why we seem to be stuck in, as I like to say, Jurassic Park. We're doing things the way we did it in the 80s. And, mm-hmm. It's time to bring some efficiencies on. We have all kind of modern things like computers and Excel spreadsheets, and we even have a microwave in the office. I mean,
wow, microwave! My goodness.
I know, it's just it's amazing.
There'll be an air fryer next, Matt.
I'm not even sure what that is.
They're good. That's what they are. Hey, listen, taxpayers across Washington County are seeing their taxes go up, their fees go up. They're getting, and sometimes they feel like they're getting less from the government than they used to, and are paying more money. If you're elected, where would you, look for that fraud, waste, and abuse the most? And where do you think you could make the quickest changes?
Well, I'll give you an one in my office in particular. And this is, I'm glad you gave me that question. There's just so many simple little things in the government. I'll give you one. Water delivery, bottled water delivery to my office. I spend about $600 a year. It's like, wait a minute, there's a tap right there. It's already water coming, municipal water from the city. I got a hold of our maintenance department. It's like, can you guys put a reverse osmosis water system in, a Culligan system, onto that sink? And that'll be our drinking water? We did. Well, that saves $600 a year, or $2,400 over, the period of my term. Well, maybe simple little things like that in every department. I'll give you one that I think about a lot. A good friend of mine's on the Board of Education for Washington County, and he was telling me, he's actually the president of the Board of Education now. About a year ago, he was telling me that the board wanted to buy a bunch of new cars for their fleet, and I think the number he gave me was about 20. And the average age for those cars were 15 years old, but the average mileage was between 40 and 50,000 on the car. I said, wait a minute, why are you getting rid of these cars? Oh, they're starting to rust out. It's like, okay, We have a very nice Votech in Washington County that has an auto body shop. What a great publicity thing it would be for the Votech Center to have the kids, the students there, fix these rust spots and repaint the cars and put them back on. How much cost savings would that be? It's like, that's a great idea. The Board of Education wanted to buy a bucket truck a few years ago for changing the lights on the football fields around the county. Okay, I get the need for that, but we have a county roads department that has a bucket truck. We have volunteer fire departments that have ladder trucks. It's like, make it a training event. There's just so many simple little things that we can do by using the resources that are already out here that don't require, going before the county commissioner and say, oh, I need $150,000 to buy this piece of equipment, or I need a budget adjustment to buy 20 new cars. It's like, there's better ways to do things, and maybe because I've had to struggle financially, the life I came from, things weren't great. I'm doing well now after, hard work and, periods of success. I look at everything. It's like, okay, how can we cut the cost? None of the money the government has, whether it's state, county, or federal, is their money. The government doesn't make any money. They confiscate yours. And that's what taxes are. They're a confiscation. If you think about it, in the Constitution, it talks about the consent of the government. Who has consented for the government to take our money? They do. So I think we have to take it, or not take it, collect it, use it wisely to the benefit of the citizens and to the benefit of the infrastructure. But there's things the government does that quite frankly, they just shouldn't do. Now, most of that's at the federal level. Local things, here's something I think we've got to address is our aging population in Washington County and better support for our elderly population. Our Meals on Wheels program is enormously expensive, and it's not put out for a competitive bid. I'm all for supporting the elderly and doing everything we can. In fact, I was telling somebody yesterday, I've got a 3-point plan I'd like to see. Real estate tax. If you've been a Washington County resident for 30 years, you're collecting Social Security, but you've been here for that period of time and you're collecting Social Security, I think we should look at having a tiered, and again, income driven, it's needs driven, not for everybody. I don't need this tax cut. I'm collecting Social Security starting last month. But I think we need to look at reducing the real estate tax on that group of people. They're living on fixed income. They're not using government services. The police and the fire department aren't showing up to their houses. Their kids aren't in school. And so I think we can give them a benefit. This reminds me of that old phrase, thank God we don't get all the government we pay for. They're paying for a lot of government and they're not using it. Let's give them a break.
The elderly certainly on fixed incomes, would be very, very grateful for that kind of a break, I'm sure. As Washington County grows, Matt, I mean, and it has been growing. I mean, the warehouses are popping up. Everything's popping up. A lot of questions on growth. How do you balance economic growth with preserving the rural community's way of life? That quality of life that people in Washington County, because primarily Washington County is a rural community.
Oh, absolutely. Once you get west of Interstate 81, it's a different county. As a matter of fact, once you go west of 81, many homeowners take advantage of a program through the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And I didn't know this until a few years ago. They're in the business of home loans. They can do that also. But that doesn't apply until you're west of 81, but it's so rural they looked at it. But to answer your question more directly, I think we have to look at a program like Carroll County had, and they just called it Smart Growth. And creating population centers with reasonable zoning. We're going to grow. We're 160,000 people now. And it's going to happen even more. As soon as Interstate 270 is widened and that commute time is reduced, I think we're going to see a lot of people from Frederick County, northern Montgomery County, start moving here because our cost of living is much more favorable than the other surrounding counties.
And they prefer the politics in Washington County, which are much more conservative.
They are. Another reason why I love this county so much, it is that, the Board of County Commissioners, not this term, but the previous term, they voted, and it was a Second Amendment sanctuary county that they voted to protect, your Second Amendment rights. Like, Well, it's symbolic, but it says something.
It's pretty profound, the Second Amendment protection area, because, especially with Governor Moore passing legislation recently outlawing basically every single Glock on the planet. It's the far-reaching liberal anti-gun sentiment coming out of Annapolis has to be checked someplace.
It does, and it's unfortunate. It's always going to go to the Supreme Court, and the Glock ban, undoubtedly. I mean, the lawsuits have already been filed. My wife and I are both endowment members, life members to the National Rifle Association, so we get all the emails and we read and we stay up on top of it. I'm a member of both Potomac Fish and Game Club here in Washington County and North American Rod and Gun Club, and sponsored, I don't even know how many concealed carry classes here in Washington County. But yeah, that is very important. And these gun laws are just ridiculous. We pass a law, but only the law-abiding citizens follow it.
Mm-hmm.
So who are we affecting? Criminals don't care about gun laws. They're criminals. I think maybe we need to look at behavior and not the tools. More people are killed by alcohol and drunk driving. Do we take the cars away?
And just for our viewers, the Glock ban, which is what it's being called, is really any gun that can be fashioned into a machine gun or a rapidly firing weapon is going to be outlawed under this new rule. And it covers every single Glock, which is a very popular handgun in America, in Maryland. But here's the funny part, Matt, and in law enforcement as well as I do, the piece of equipment that you need to make it into a machine gun is illegal. Doing the procedure is illegal. Having it, possessing it, or moving it from any place to place is also illegal. So why do we need a new law that affects, average citizens who are not breaking the law? That's targeting citizens as opposed to criminals. That's the problem.
It's all symbolism over substance. And that's what it is. Okay, I'm doing something to help somebody. It always reminds me in California, and you would hear something about their studies on the homeless people. And what they would do, we'll go out and count the homeless. We're not going to help them, but we're going to count them to have that statistic. Symbolism over substance. No man's fortune or freedom are safe when the legislature is in session. It's like, government, leave us alone. And that's my view. In fact, I have a very unpopular opinion, and I've said this publicly at talks about Washington County commissioners. Not the current commissioners, just the body. Allegheny County survives and does just fine with 3 county commissioners. We have 5. Why do we have 5? You need an odd number to break a tie vote. I get that. But why are we paying 5 county commissioners? Do we really need that? The less government, in my mind, the better. Are there legitimate functions of government? Roads, public safety, infrastructure? Of course. But county commissioners don't go out and they're not laying down blacktop. They're not riding an ambulance. Why do we need them? And the cost savings there alone would be something. Me, when I ran for treasurer, I swore that I would not take any career benefits, such as a pension or health care. Now, I've already got that because I'm retired from two other agencies. And so it's a little bit different. I don't need it. But my whole belief is many people get into politics because it's, oh my gosh, it's a government job and I get the best health care and I get this and I get that. And then politics becomes a career. That's why we can't get rid of them in Congress. Every person since 2014 on the Republican side that's ran for Congress in our district, I have spoke to them and sat them down or had a sit down with them and said, maybe you should submit legislation to eliminate the pension for the legislative branch at the federal level. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like, well, it didn't exist till 1941. It's career benefits. You made politics a career when you give the benefits. I don't think that's what it should be. So I had the county policy changed, and when it was written, it went before the commissioners in open forum, and they amended it to only affect one position, the treasurer. In fact, a county commissioner that recently resigned to take on another position, he said, I was waiting for someone to make an amendment to include everybody or to offer something, and it's like, well, gee, Commissioner, if only somebody sitting up at the table with the commissioners would have made that motion, like somebody like you could have done that, maybe we could have sent a real nice message that we are a conservative government. We're here as public servants. We're not here as career politicians.
So the election's heating up. We've got, just a couple days before early voting starts. What would you like the voters to know about Matt Breeding when they make that decision on who's going to be the future commissioner?
I moved here in 2009. I'm on my third piece of property in Washington County that I pay taxes on. I don't owe anybody anything here. I don't owe the previous appointees. I don't owe anyone anything. I can't be bought, and I'm not corruptible. There's not enough money in the world. I will be a good steward with the taxpayers' money. I'm rather creative in my thinking, always thinking outside of the box. In fact, I don't even like to use that phrase because I don't even like to think about being confined in a box. There's always got to be a better way, fresh ideas. I have lived in multiple counties in Maryland. Lived in multiple states through my military career. I've traveled to 27 countries on orders, and I think I bring a fresh perspective. And I'll say this quite honestly, I'll be 67 this month, and I've been in public service since I was 18, whether in the U.S. Army or as a Maryland State Trooper. I've been an EMT. Actually, I was detailed by the Army to the Department of Justice for a period of time. There's no one, and I mean this literally, no one on the ballot for county commissioner that has more experience than me. No one. And I'll offer to say, as the treasurer, no one understands the budget as well as I do. I think it's going to be interesting. And then the other question people should maybe ask is, gee, this guy was the county treasurer making pretty good money. Actually, it's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Why would he run for a position that pays much less than half with a lot more headache than he already has? I could have ran for treasurer easily and would have been reelected, I'm sure. But I thought I need to get to a place where I can make a difference, and it's quite a sacrifice.
So, Matt, let's say you get elected, and it's 4 years later now. We're going to use the fast forward machine, and you're leaving office. What do you want taxpayers to say that you accomplished during those 4 years?
My roads are paved. They're no longer been tarred and chipped to saving money. We're not doing that much. The county can't afford it. Well, actually, the county can. We're sitting on a $25 million surplus this year, but we're not spending the money in the right way. He cut the size, scope of government. He advocated for reducing the number of commissioners, embracing efficiencies. The county workforce doesn't necessarily have to grow. I would love to see, and there's a place right here on Dole Highway, the old Sheridan Four Points Hotel right across the court. It's been sitting vacant for years. I'm not in a courthouse. I'm the only treasurer in the state I'm thinking that I know of that's either not in the courthouse or in a county administration building with security. And I hate saying that, and you're making the public aware, but it's a vulnerability. But looking at a place like that that's been sitting vacant, it's like, my God, right off the interstate. Wouldn't it be really great when somebody needs a county service, a building permit, anything? It's a one-stop shop. It would be a mall for the county. It's like, why haven't we looked at moving out, getting everything under one roof, and consolidating the cost? I would love to do that. And I brought it up, and all I hear is, it's too hard, it'd take too much money. It's like, well, it's an old line, a stitch in time saves nine. It's not going to get any cheaper. And the buildings downtown, as the stadium, the Meredith Park grows, and that has been successful. That's brought back some economic growth in the city, and I'm very
not without a lot of controversy, though.
It was. That's true. And there still is over it. But bottom line is, it is making a difference.
There's no doubt that area down there is growing, and it's becoming more and more a place that people want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that said, my building my office backs right up to it. It's the old Montgomery Ward's building, later became the district court. It's antiquated. Getting out of the city, moving to that location, putting those two buildings, that just downtown back on the tax rolls would be good for the city of Hagerstown and good for the county. If we get everything out, save our money where we can, and efficiency. I'm all about efficiency.
So, Matt, if the voters want to know more information about you or where they should go vote and what have you, where can they look you up and get some more information on you?
That's really easy. And like I said, I'm an open book. However, right online at my website, it's matt-breeding.com. Matt-breeding. I look forward to serving. I really do. It's been my life, and this will be my last hoorah.
Well, Matt, we appreciate you being on Mid-Maryland Votes. You always bring interesting perspectives, and we appreciate you being a guest.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for your time. And well, I've taken a lot of political hits up here, and there was as we discussed last time,
Yeah.
there was a hit job on me, and it turned out all right. And
So do you think that that ultimately helped or hurt your campaign?
it depends on who you talk to. I think ultimately it helped. Because it got people talking about me, and it got to looking like, why is this guy being attacked like this? And like a friend of mine on the Central Committee, he said, you just need to adopt the phrase, they hate me because they ain't me. Like, what are they so afraid of? Well, why are they afraid of me getting in office? And I know the answer. I can't be corrupted. I'm not a get along to go along guy. My personality is a little terse at times. I know that. And like the current state's attorney, and she actually said to me a while back, maybe you're just too honest for politics. And I thought, well, maybe you're right. I'm kind of like a bull in a china shop sometimes. But honestly, I think we need that in government. Everybody shouldn't be so concerned about the political look of things as opposed to what is right and let's get it done. I'm here to serve the citizens. I'm not here to serve the bureaucracy. And that's what I see a lot. Government grows to grow itself. One thing I've learned in government, when you see it, and I saw it especially at the federal level, but I saw it at the state, no one in government ever says, I have too much work. They always say, I don't have enough people.
Or money.
Or money. So they start justifying and writing up justifications to add a position, to add a new program. It's like, we don't need all that. Get out of people's way. I'm a firm believer people can spend their money better than the government. Let them keep it as much as possible. Stay out of the way. If you need help, you need your roads taken care of. You need public safety. You need infrastructure. Of course, absolutely, absolutely. But the idea of telling people how to live their lives like government does too much of, I'm against that. I'm a Republican, obviously, but I find myself more aligned with the Libertarian Party in so many ways. I don't want to tell you how to live your life. That's none of my business. Don't tell me how to live mine. I want an ethical, honest government that serves the people. Leave people alone. We were born free until the government came along.
Agreed 100%. Hey, Matt, I want to thank you so much for being on the program. I really do wish you good luck in the coming election. Hopefully we see you soon in the future. And when you get done with the election, come on back and let us know how everything went.
I'll be glad to.
Thank you, Matt.
Bless, Mark. Have a great day.
Hey, this has been Mark Flynn for Mid-Maryland Votes with my distinguished guest, Matt Breeding, the treasurer of Washington County, seeking your vote for commissioner of Washington County. Thank you for joining us on Mid-Maryland Votes. We'll see you next time. Have a great day. That was County Commissioner candidate Matt Breeding discussing his vision for Washington County and why he believes voters are ready for a new approach to local government. With early voting underway and election day approaching, the decision now belongs to the voters. Mid-Maryland Votes, bringing people from different backgrounds together for real conversations that still matter. Like, follow, and share, and we'll see you next time on Mid-Maryland Votes.